Hello everybody, good afternoon and welcome to the United Stand. We're back with another head-to-head and I'm going to do it live because I like the interaction rather than uploading it as a pre-record. We're going to do Jadon Sancho versus Marcus Rashford. And again, there's some quite interesting differences between the two. I think at the moment, most people would say that Jadon Sancho is clear of Marcus Rashford and Marcus Rashford is having a very disappointing season. I've also, he's not on the screen, but I have thrown in Alanga's stats just to just chuck him in there and just see. I mean, he doesn't have the depth of games that Sancho and Rashford have had this season, but he's still made a few appearances, so we can put him in there. And I think the important thing here is that as with all the head-to-heads we've done so far, we've done Cavani Ronaldo, we've done Delo Wan-Bissaka, we've done Shaw Tellez, we've done McTominay Fred, and we've done Maguire Lindelof. And what we're looking at is key things that are specific to that position. So we're not going to do tackling per se and things like that, although defensive actions will be on there, and we'll delve deeper into each of them as we move through this. But for a winger or a wide forward, you're looking at goals, you're looking at assists, you're looking at dribbling, you're looking at accuracy of crosses, you're looking at, you know, how progressive those runs are when you get it, how successful you are with those. Lots of things that we can look at. And look, ultimately Sancho is going to come out on top of Rashford. I fully expect that to happen, but how far away is Rashford, and are there some quick wins that he can make to improve his overall output? And I think that is it, and I've said it many times before, that he just needs to simplify his game in these times of difficulty. He needs to, I mean, Rash is just having a bad season, says Bew. I mean, it's a bad season and a two, isn't it, really? But you can use injury for last season. But he needs to simplify his game, and he needs to open his ears and eyes to the criticism and look at where he's going wrong. And things like this would be interesting. So, goals for the season for Manchester United: 3 for Jadon Sancho and 5 for Marcus Rashford. So Marcus Rashford gets off to a good start there, and you'd expect him to. I think when you look at Jadon Sancho, I see more of a creator than a goal scorer, and when I look at Rashford, I see more of a goal scorer and not much creation. That's my stereotypical view of the two players. So I'm not surprised that Sancho comes out, and what I would agree with is what Ladios is saying. I would have expected more goals than 5 for Marcus Rashford this season. Interestingly, goals per 90, 0.19 goal per 90 for Sancho, 0.3 for Rashford, and 0.3 for Elanga. So we've not included Elanga in there, but Elanga has got 3 goals, I think, this season. I think he's got 3. I think Elanga's got 3, but he's got the same goals per 90 record as Rashford at the moment. So 0.3 goals per 90 minutes. Shots per 90. So Sancho's getting off 1.2 shots per 90. Rashford's getting off 2.3, so nearly double the amount of shots per 90. And Elanga's getting off 1.6. Their conversion rate in relation to shots: 16% conversion rate for Sancho, 13% for Rashford, 19% for Elanga. So shots to goal conversion rate, or however you want to call it, Elanga number 1, Sancho number 2, Rashford number 3. So Rashford's got more goals, but as Kevin said, Rashford shoots a lot. Actually, conversion rate, shots to goals, Sancho is in second, Elanga's in first, and Rashford's in third. So that, to me, and I think there's a lot to take away for all players here when you're doing a head-to-head, but the first point is, yeah, the headline, Rashford's got more goals, but he's third when it comes to conversion rate. And that is something that we've picked up this season with Rashford, is that he's not scored as many as he should do. He should have more than 5. It's not really Sancho's job to score goals. It is Rashford's, because they're different sorts of wide forward. He is the wide forward who scores more, and he isn't hitting the target as much as he should do, because if he was, I think he'd get less stick. Why is Rashford on the wing? He's a striker. Why is McTominay in the midfield? He was a forward for the academy, and Sancho is a creator. It's a Slow Sports News. Rashford's not a number 9, mate, and I think we'll prove that as we go through this. He might adapt into a number 9, and Ranić mentioned it, but he's not a number 9. Assists, sorry, what's that? No, I don't want that one yet. I don't want that. So I haven't put assists on there because I was going to include it under goals. So assists this season: 3 assists for Sancho, 2 assists for Rashford, and 0 assists for Elanga. However, there is a little bit more to that. Key passes per game: 0.82 key passes a game for Sancho, 0.5 for Rashford, 0.1 for Elanga. So I think what we're seeing here from Elanga is that he doesn't look like he's a very creative wide player, which I think is actually to do with the lack of game time compared to the other two. I just think that Elanga hasn't got the assists he can provide yet. But yeah, as I would expect, Sancho has got more assists than Rashford. So that would fit in. Okay. dribbles per 90. Now, this might be quite surprising because dribbles per 90, 5.3 dribbles per 90. So Sancho is averaging 5 dribbles, just over 5 dribbles per 90. Rashford is higher. Now, I know what the chat's going to say straight away, and I can't defeat it, and I can't deny it. Rashford does dribble a lot, but how many of them are successful? Well, I can tell you, successful dribbles per 90, 45% for Sancho, 41% for Rashford, and 40% for Elanga. Mark says that Sancho's got 5 goals. I've taken it from where I've taken it from, mate. So, look, there are many different stats. You might be using cup goals, all sorts of stuff like that. If you want to listen, listen. If you don't want to listen, don't listen. Everybody knows there's different stat sites, and different stat sites have different things. We are using what we are using. If you don't like it, don't watch it. Simple as that. But if you want to listen and you want to learn, crack on. So, successful dribbles, 45% for Sancho, 41% for Rashford. I actually think that is quite interesting. Rashford does more dribbles per 90, not massively, but he's less successful. I think this is something where Rashford can improve very, very quickly, because I would have thought that Rashford would be dribbling less successfully than Sancho, but he's dribbling, whilst it is less successful, 41%, 45%. It's not huge. So Rashford actually in that area, well, he wins. He wins. But people will say, well, he's not as successful when he does it. But there's not a big gap between it. So I think from that point of view, I'd be quite pleased if I was Marcus Rashford with that. Not sure what you think, Mark, but Rashford seems a little bit one-dimensional for me. He should have added more to his game by now. Well, that's what we're looking at, Wan, to be fair. So 0.3 forward passes per 90. 12.8 for Sancho. 9.3 for Rashford. Now, this is where we start to wander into Sancho's territory, and I'm not surprised that he scored his first point there. He is the winner when it comes to forward passes per 90, because he's an intelligent footballer. And I'm not saying that Rashford isn't, but when I think about Rashford, I wouldn't say he's one-dimensional, but I think he's a full throttle player. I think he gets his head down and shoots, or he gets his head down and dribbles, and he's quick. I think Jadon Sancho gets his head up. He looks at the options. He looks to play a pass. He looks for a 1-2. He looks to pass and move. That's what Jadon Sancho is. He looks to create something. And this is where we delve into the two separate players, really. And I think this is something that Rashford can definitely improve on. Forward passes per 90, 12.8 for Sancho, 9.3 for Rashford. But the real interesting thing here is how many of those... And Elanga, if you're interested, is 8. So he'd be third in that place. But the real interesting thing is how accurate are they with it. 80% accuracy with his passes for Jadon Sancho, 58% for Rashford. So not only is Sancho doing way more forward passes per game than Rashford, he's also massively more accurate. 80% accuracy with his passing, Rashford below 60%. So that, for me, is a domination from Sancho. That's not even close. I do more, and I'm way more accurate with it as well. And that is an area that I've spoke about Rashford, and many of you have before. That is an area where he needs to work and simplify his game, because passing, go outside and pass it up against the wall, dribble and pass. These are things you can work on. It's attention to detail. It's concentration. It's not being... I think Rashford's game this season, he's dribbling into blind alleys. He's shooting from ridiculous areas. He's misplacing his passes. And you see the contrast between Sancho and Rashford there. And you see the contrast in the way that Sancho is appreciated by United fans at the moment and Rashford's having a hard time. Well, look at what Sancho's doing well and look to improve on that yourself. I think Rashford should take the rest of the season off and come back next season rejuvenated, says Jack. So yeah, interesting there. Probably not. Crosses per 90, Rashford actually is doing more, which some people might find surprising. But maybe some of this is to do with the fact that Jadon Sancho is playing off the left. And Jadon Sancho, whilst he can use his left, is probably better whipping a crossing with his right. And Rashford, if he was on the left, I don't think he'd be putting as many crosses in. But Rashford's been playing a lot on the right recently, so is he more prone to putting a cross in? Surprised you compared Rashford to Nani. Nani was much more valuable. I didn't, Nicholas. So thank you very much for that one. But always good to get a bit of a lie in. Accuracy of crosses, though, is always important. 33% accuracy in his crosses for Jadon Sancho. 25% for Marcus Rashford. So again, he might be doing less, but he's way more accurate with what he's doing, Jadon Sancho. In Elanga, he's only putting in 1.47 crosses per game, but he's got an accuracy of 35%. So he's doing a lot less, but he's more accurate with it. What's next? We've got successful attacking actions per 90. I mean, this is the surprising thing, is that Rashford is actually doing more of them, but when you deep dive into the accuracy, it's where Sancho wins. So actually, if you're tuning in here, you're going, well, Rashford's a better player. But we'll come back to that in a minute. So successful attacking actions per 90. You've got 4.3 for Rashford, and you've got 3.82 for Jadon Sancho. 2.9 for Elanga. So successful attacking actions will be dribbling, passing, the whole kabundle really. But one thing I wanted to do to add to that is that successful attacking actions takes into account everything. That can be a sideways pass, that can be a forward pass, it can be, how far you progress when you've got the ball. Well, Rashford's very quick, so he probably covers more yardage in his attacking movements than Rashford. Although I thought, because then I looked at progressive runs per 90, 5 for Sancho, 2.7 for Rashford. So Rashford's nearly half the progressive runs of Jadon Sancho. And a progressive run is getting the ball and carrying that ball. And Sancho is doing it way more than Rashford. So it's interesting that Rashford comes out on top with successful attacking actions when you put everything together. But I would imagine there's a lot of things in successful attacking actions around passing that is simplified passing and is not key passing. But Rashford comes out on top. But again, when you dig deeper, it's a little bit different. And also, of course, being a winger or a wide forward is not just about attacking, especially in a United team. It's about how well you defend. Successful defensive actions per 90, and I'm not surprised here. Jadon Sancho, out of all our wide forwards, has covered the most distance this season, has consistently done that, and he's the better defensive wide player, with 4.9 successful defensive actions per 90 to Rashford. Actual defensive duels won this season, 61% for Sancho, 55% for Rashford. Interestingly, Elanga, 72% of his defensive duels are won, putting him number 1, and he's averaging 6.9 defensive actions per 90. So Elanga comes out on top for defensive work rate out of the three of them, looking at their stats this season. But that is the things I've looked at. I've looked at forward passing, I've looked at dribbling, I've looked at crossing, I've looked at goals, assists, defensive actions, attacking actions. And if you're looking at the 6 things that we've looked at there, Rashford comes out on top, 4-2. Now, someone's going to probably clip that and go, oh, Rashford haters in the mud. Oh, Rashford's better than Sancho, he's just getting picked on. But if you've listened to the whole show, this is where stats can be deceptive. Because if you look at those, you go, well, Rashford's having a better season than Sancho. But dribbles per 90, how many of them are successful? And as we went back to and had a look at, well, Sancho's success rate is better. Oh, you're putting more crosses into the box than Jadon Sancho, but your accuracy is nowhere near that of Jadon Sancho's. And your successful attacking actions are better as well. But hold on a minute, his progressive per 90 runs are way better. His key passes per 90 are way better. So the headline areas, you've got to give it to Rashford 4-2. But some of those things are just numbers. You're doing it more. How successfully you're doing it, that's the key. And I think what comes through here and what is very clear is that, look, Rashford's won 4-2 in relation to those areas. But how many shots are you having to get those 5 goals? How many? You're doing 6.1 dribbles, but how many of them successful? You're putting 2.5 crosses into Rashford to Sancho's 1.9, but he's way more accurate. Everything you look at that Rashford's won there, it's a headline, but underneath it, the success rate or the conversion is not there. Sancho beats him. So it's a real example of quantity over quality. And the quality has been with Sancho this year. But it's interesting. I like doing it. And I'm not going to talk about Martial because it's irrelevant. We could also talk about Greenwood. We're not going to do that either. But in relation to Sancho versus Rashford, those headline things there would suggest it's Rashford. But I think, as we've shown, Sancho is the more consistent and more competent deliverer at the moment. But there is hope for Rashford. there is hope for Rashford in those things that we've looked at. He needs to simplify his game. He needs to get back to doing the basics well, if he ever did the basics well, and be a more of a team player. I think that's the thing. Sancho fits the team ethos of Manchester United that we're trying to build. Rashford's game is good, but it's very individualistic. It's very head down, run into a blind alley. It's very head down and shoot. It's very put a cross in but not really take any care with it. And that has been evidenced this year. Rashford's game has become very individualistic. He needs to become more Jadon Sancho. He needs to become more of a team player. And that obviously stands out there very, very well. Look, we have got an 8 o'clock show tonight. I like doing the head-to-heads. I hope you enjoy them as well. I think it's an easier way of looking at what a player's doing wrong or what a player's doing right without it just being, well, that's your opinion, you're scapegoating somebody. We've done Maguire and Lindelof. We've now done Rashford and Sancho. And you can clearly show on the relevant points for their position where they're going wrong. Rashford should be able to cross better. He should be dribbling better. He should be shooting better. He should be making more key passes. He should be more accurate with that. These are key fundamentals of the game he is meant to be playing as a wide forward, and all of those things can be improved on. Saying Rashford's a load of shit or calling him Trashford, that's not constructive. Talking about why he's doing things wrong, that is something that the manager, the coach, the player, the agent, they can't moan about that. Because you're breaking their game down and you are showing where they're going wrong. And you can't be called a scapegoat. You can't be scapegoated for that. So I enjoy doing it because you see where the issues are and you highlight them. And I think Sancho's having a very good season. We have got an 8 o'clock show tonight. There is some big stuff brewing, and I'm going to try and get to the bottom of it for 8 o'clock around the Pochettino versus Ten Hag thing. People are getting very stressed on social media. I wouldn't get stressed on social media. There's a lot of story about maybe the director of football wants Poch, maybe he wants Ten Hag, maybe the board now want Ten Hag, but the football side want Poch. I've always been led to believe that the board want Poch and the football side want Ten Hag. The reality is, don't stress about it. There is a split. And if there is a split, that means some want one thing, some want the other. Some players want Poch. It's as simple as that. Some might want Ten Hag. It will come out in the wash. The truth will out. But at the moment, it's very hard to figure out who wants what when there is a split in that football club. But we'll just have to wait and see. Hopefully United will do the right thing. Hopefully they will go for Ten Hag. But it'll be a big show at 8 o'clock because I'm going to speak to a couple of people. Stats can be misleading without context, says Geordie. And I think that for the very first time, we've probably evidenced that on the show today. Because you look at that and you go, Rashford's better than Sancho. But they're completely out of context if you don't dig deep. Crosses. Rashford could be putting 2.5 crosses in per game, more than Sancho, but he could have a 0% accuracy rate, and Sancho could have a 100% accuracy rate. In which case, Marcus Rashford's putting no crosses in really, and Sancho's winning. So you're right. It's why I'm always dubious about stats, because every stat has an underlying stat, and every stat has 4 or 5. Like goals. Look at the goals. We spoke about goals per 90, shots per 90. Conversion rate. Rashford's got more goals than Sancho. I bet he's played more minutes. He might not have played more minutes, but his goal conversion rate is worse than Sancho. So it's always worth looking at. I enjoy doing them. I know it's a bit niche, but if you do enjoy it, smash a like on the video and subscribe, and the more interactive chat will be coming out at 8 o'clock tonight. I am playing Twitch. I am playing TUFFC. It's back. Got some new sneak to try as well. So I'll be live at about 10 past 3. I've dropped the link in the video description for Goldbridge TV. About 10 past 3. Might be a little bit after because I've got to do something. But I am on Twitch in about 15 minutes. Thanks everybody for watching. Smash a like. Take care. And I'll speak to you in a bit.